Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Seam Lam from Saint Remy Studio. So Seam runs a design studio with her partner Cam, and she's got a great story about how she started in the industry and um, also got the name of the business. So when she was traveling in France, she really discovered how much she loved gardens, and that's also where the name came from. And also, you can see that kind of style in her designs as well. And then she had a great start getting into the industry by studying at Burnley, and then her first job was working at Eckersley Garden Architecture. So a couple of great places to learn and work. And she makes some great points in this chat about the value of working with landscapers, so working together, and how she actually learns from them as well. And I'll talk about how that can go both ways. And she also touched on her experience at the landscape conference. So it was just a delight to talk to Sam. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Sam Lamb. Sam, thank you for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
How did I start? Okay, I have had some time to think about this. So basically, I started having a green thumb around 2012. Hopefully, I got that year right. Yes. And I was actually working in the music industry at the time, and I was sort of slowly really wanting to get myself out of it. And so I just started pottering around, growing things in pots, mostly edibles. And yeah, just sort of really developed a love for plants and gardening. And then, from that point, I enrolled into a permaculture course at Series to just really kind of learn more about what kind of foods I could grow and everything in this climate. And that kind of just really sparked everything. Cam and I, so Cam's my partner in life and in business, and we traveled around France for about 3 months in 2015. And yeah, I think that was sort of so good for us to do because I just saw so much beauty in gardens and landscapes than I ever had before. Just even seeing simple things like just flower boxes planted in the streets and actually looking good was really, I don't know, really nice to see, I guess, because I feel like if something like that was done here, it would be trashed immediately. So there was just a real respect for beauty. And yeah, I think it just really helped to cement where I wanted to go with my life at that point and my work life. So yeah, it was really, really good for the soul, I think. So basically during that trip, I found out that I got accepted into Burnley. So I studied horticulture for a couple of years there. And then by the end of that, I got a job at a landscape design company. So good one that's been around for, 20 or so years. Not sure if you want me to name them. I
Yeah,
know
you can do.
I can do. Well, I worked at Eckersley Garden Architecture, and that was just a really great place to start. They, work on so many beautiful gardens. They've been around for a long time. They work on a lot of different projects. I was working as a design assistant for one of the partners, Scott, and I mean, both of them were so busy, but it just allowed me to just, I guess, hit the floor running, really. I was assisting with on a lot of projects, and so I was able to learn really quickly. And I guess I was really lucky in that sense because I'm not, I guess you could say, I'm not like a spring chicken or anything coming out fresh out of uni. This was a career change for me. And so I came into it with a different goal, I guess. I really knew that I wanted to get into design and also to work for myself. So working at Eckersley allowed me to learn a lot in a short amount of time. So I was really, really lucky with that. But I mean, I did stay there for almost a couple of years and I left on maternity leave. So then I had my son. And during COVID is when I essentially decided to start my own business.
Right.
Yeah.
And what were you doing in the music industry?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I was running an independent record label. It was called Boomtown at the time, and then it it relaunched as Unified, and so they're more alternative rock, heavy, metal, all that stuff, that genre. And so I worked as a label manager there, and I was there for about 6 years. And funnily enough, Cam, my partner, he used to be in one of the bands that was signed to the label I worked at, but we never met. We actually met a lot later, and it was through, mutual friends' housewarming party. So, yeah,
Um,
small world.
yeah, yeah, it's funny like that. So when you just when you were studying, when you decided to study design, horticulture at Burnley,
Yeah.
did you already know you wanted to get into design, or did you sort of
I
realize it after you
hadn't,
started?
yeah, I sort of had an inkling, I guess for me, I've always been creative. I just love, I don't know, I just have never been someone who was like, I'm not your typical Asian, I guess you could say. Like I did study like the Asian five subjects in, I probably shouldn't say this, but in high school, due to my parents' influence or expectations, and I really didn't enjoy it. I really would have thrived, I think, a bit more doing more arts, arts-based subjects. But that's okay. It's okay. I'm where I want to be and where I need to be, so that's all that matters.
So when you were in France, what were some of the gardens that you saw there?
Oh, well, we visited, of course, Monet's garden. That was truly, truly a nice experience. I don't know, it just the one word that I can think of is probably magical. It really felt magical to be there. I felt really grateful to be there. I felt like I was, I don't know, just transported into his world. And without, trying to sound wanky or anything. It was just a beautiful experience. I just felt really lucky and inspired. We also visited the Gardens of Versailles, and that was really lovely to just cycle around the grounds there and visit Marie Antoinette's gardens as well. And it was just really beautiful. I mean, those two sort of stand out, but I think for the most part, so many parts of Paris and France are just so beautiful. Like that's the simplest way to put it. They really put time and effort into their public spaces, their gardens that, people can access, and it just makes you feel really good to be in. And yeah, I think that's probably the most inspirational thing for me is from that trip. We visited a village in Provence, which actually inspired the name of our company, Saint Remy. Just this pretty little village in Provence where, the streets are just lined with however many hundred old cobblestones. Buildings are just quite pristine, and, the thing that stood out to me is just the pastel shutters, that dress the windows. Like, and actually just really yeah, just really elegant and understated. And I sort of just feel like, yeah, I guess our design aesthetics is sort of a little reminiscent of that.
Yeah, it's been interesting use of words as well because what I was going to say ties in with exactly what you just said, and I was thinking it beforehand. But it's almost like they do it effortlessly and don't even try to look awesome over there, whereas in
Yeah.
Australia, people try really hard and it still just does. It looks manufactured and doesn't look natural and it
Yes,
doesn't
yes.
work.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that's the hardest thing to do is to make something look effortless when you know how much effort it requires to
Mm.
achieve that. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's kind of the feeling that we always get when we look at gardens from there, but also just when someone does it well. It's not only in France, there's, amazing designers in the UK who are doing it. And Piet Oudorff is a great example too, like, yeah.
Yeah, I just saw recently. I think it was in Italy. Someone I follow might have been there on holidays or something, and all it could even be Paul Pritchard possibly, but someone showed it was just like a concrete wall and it
Yeah.
had a red geranium at the base of it. So it looked
Wow.
phenomenal. Like it was
Yeah.
amazing. It's like the green and the red of that against
Yeah.
this dark concrete wall. It
Yeah.
looked phenomenal, but it was just and it's just as simple as that.
Yeah, that's right. Just the simplicity of it, but it probably, and it might have been an accident too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but it's just sometimes, yeah, the prettiest thing is like by accident as well. Like sometimes we always find, I don't know if you're finding this too, because obviously some gardens I mean, gardens do take time to grow, and you design something on paper and you picture it in your mind and you think, yep, this is what it's going to look like. And then you just pray and pray that it's going to look good when it's in and it grows. And then when you do walk through it, and then you're pleased with it, you're just like, okay, it probably looks a bit better than I thought that it would look, and sometimes things happen by accident when you're in the space and you go, oh wow, I didn't expect that to do that or look like that, but I'm glad it does.
Mm.
So
Yeah, it
yeah.
goes both ways. Sometimes you look at
Yes.
something and think, oh, that looks so much better than I thought it was. And other things are like, oh, yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, maybe we'll just tweak that a little bit. I
Yeah.
know.
No, I won't do
Try
that
not to
again.
be
But
too hard on yourself, but it happens all the time actually. So
yeah. Um, and something I find frightening when you're sending off a design to clients is just like you put all this work into it, thinking, I hope like doing something you think they'll love, and then you just
yeah,
wait to hear the feedback on if they liked it or not. That's something
yeah,
I had no idea about until I started doing designs. Because when you're
yeah.
doing construction, you sort of it's you're doing something it's either
Mm,
done or it's not. There's not
yes.
much interpretation in it, but with
Yeah.
designs, it comes down to personal taste.
Yes, absolutely. It's so subjective. And even if you're given a brief and you think that you've nailed the brief and it's been signed off on, and then it goes to be installed, and then sometimes the clients will look at it and go, "Oh, I don't really like that," or, I didn't expect it to look like that, or, not sure about this tree or this plant, whatever it may be. It could be anything. And then you just think, oh, but we showed you, we walked you through this, this is what we said it would be. Like, yeah. I know it's difficult, but it's
Yeah.
part and parcel with it, isn't it?
Then how intimidating was it starting at Eckersley when you hadn't done any design at that stage, I assume?
Oh gosh, okay. Yeah, that's a good question. Definitely intimidating. I felt like a little bit of a fish out of water because I was surrounded by so many talented designers. And I guess the way that I kind of approached it day to day was that I'm walking into a space where I can learn a lot from some of the best designers, whether they're young or, whether they've been in there for a while or not. I just always felt like I could learn something. And I think that's sort of just my general approach with anything I do is looking for that thing where I could take away something. Yeah, I know that probably doesn't sound like much, but that's probably how I approached it.
Yeah, I'm looking for the
And I learned from
positives
this person.
out of
Yes,
it.
yes, that's it. Yeah, but it
And-
was really great, and we were really busy.
yeah, and that helps as well.
Yeah.
Because you're better off being busy so everything like time goes quicker and you're learning heaps and
Mm.
you're sort of thrown into the deep end to see if you can swim rather
Yes.
than just sort of sitting there and waiting and then doing a little bit here and a little bit there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really does suit me in that sense to work under the pump. So yeah, that's exactly what happened.
So then, have you studied design at all, or is it just what you learned from working there?
I didn't study design exactly. I mean, I had a unit in at Burnley. We had a landscape design unit. I think we had it for two, yeah, so one, yeah, two units. And that was really good to sort us out with the basics. But learning in theory is always going to be so different to learning in real life in the space. And so I think the combination of both really helped. So being in the workplace really helped cement the things I was learning in theory, but also having to learn quickly. So at Eckersley, I had to learn how to use Vectorworks in more depth because you're able to work a lot faster, even though I absolutely loved working by hand drawings. You could take your time with it. It feels like, I don't know, there's something a bit different to when you're designing using a pen and paper to designing on a computer. But the reality is you won't be able to get much done. And there's so many changes sometimes that you just can't afford to do things by hand, as
Yeah.
lovely as it may be.
So when you were there, were they doing some stuff by hand?
We would do sort of sketch concepts sometimes by hand just to put initial ideas down. And then it was pretty much go straight onto the program or the computer. And so you just draw from there, edit from there. And, just when you're working on such high volume, you have to use software that allows you to work
Yep.
quickly.
Do you do
Yeah.
any hand drawings with your stuff now?
Um, I barely. Look, it's such a fantasy of mine that I think maybe when I'm retired, semi-retired, and I just want to, take on a project or two, I would do it by hand for sure. For sure. There's so much enjoyment in that for me, but definitely not now.
Yeah. Yeah, something I love that some people do, like who do hand like amazing hand drawings, is they'll give it to their client and then they'll frame it. So they've got a frame picture of the
Yeah.
design. But you
Yeah.
want to make sure that they've made any more changes before they put
Yes,
that
ex
last one.
exactly. You want to hope that that is the final signed, sealed, delivered design for sure. I think it's really lovely. I do love, hand sketched and hand drawn plans. There's
Yeah,
something really romantic about them.
yeah. Had you used Vectorworks or any type of program before you started?
Before I started at Eckersley, I
Yeah.
did. I
Yeah.
started learning it at Burnley through the degree, and it was taught by Ross Ubergang, and that's
Ah,
where I met. Oh, no, actually, I think I met Ross before then, but he was teaching us the program.
because that would have
Is
been
it?
next level intimidating if you start working there and they say, "I'll just draw this up here." Like, oh,
Yes, absolutely. Look, they were really great, so it's sort of easing me into it. So sort of started out with doing mood boards. So, really reading a design and trying to interpret it into how they designed it and, using the right images to convey that design. I think that was a really good way to walk through a plan in detail. So, they were really good in that sense of just going, we're not going to throw you into the deep, deep end yet. So just get your feet wet. But
and what
it
was
was
Cam doing at that stage?
Cam. Okay, so good question. He was working in copywriting,
Ah,
actually. Yeah, so he was in copywriting for a few years, and then he went to work at a garden maintenance company at ABH with Tali. And so he was there for a little bit as well. And then I was starting to get pretty busy. And then he basically hopped on board.
so did you start the business and then he came on board like
Yes, yes. So
years?
yeah, as I said, I started during COVID or when COVID sort of hit, and then he left in 2020, and then sort of just helped me out here and there, help with copy mostly, with copy with whether it was contracts or fee proposals, the website, social media, all those things. And as we sort of got a bit busy, yeah, we got busier. We decided to relaunch as a company in 2022. Yeah.
So when did you put your first employee on?
And my first employee is Cans.
All right.
So it's still just the two of
All
us.
right.
We've had moments of considering whether we hire somebody to help with the documentation, the things that take the longest to do. Because as you know, running your own business, you are wearing 100 different hats and pulled in so many different directions that you can't actually just sit and do the thing that you want to do the whole day. So we've had moments, we've had ins and outs, and we're just like, oh, like, I don't know whether we will. I think I kind of like the idea of keeping us small because we've got two young kids, we don't really sort of see. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know whether it's probably a better idea to hire someone to help us free up that time a bit to bring in more projects. I'm not sure. I don't have an answer to that question,
Yeah.
but it's basically Cam and I and Slinky, our cat.
It's not a some type of sausage cat like from Toy Story, is it?
No, oh, actually, she's quite long. Um, I came up with her name just by looking at her, and I never even read the book Slinky Malinky until Josh, who from EGA had told me that, and I was just, oh my gosh, okay, there you go,
I haven't even heard of it.
there you go,
I'll add it to my reading list.
children's book.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer for whether you put employees on or not. It depends what you want to do with the business because some people put on employees and then they just feel like they're working just to keep them employed.
Yeah,
So it's good to have the flexibility.
yeah,
And also a lot of businesses appear bigger than what they are, which can be a good thing as well. Like
Yeah.
I was surprised that you haven't didn't have anyone else on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's
and
really
people
nice to hear.
say the same about my business. Like we look a lot bigger
Yeah.
than what we are, which I think is a
Yeah.
good thing.
So how
Mm.
many people do you guys have?
It's in the air at the moment, but I've got two qualified guys.
Yep.
One gave his notice yesterday, so he finishes in a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
and the other one goes on paternity leave the week after. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
in a
So,
few weeks, it'll just be one, just
yeah.
me. But I've got plans to get other people on board, hopefully.
Oh, good, good,
But
good.
yeah,
Oh,
but
no, that's hard. I think that's the hardest thing is that, yeah, you just don't know when that shift sort of happens as well. It's like, you have an employee, but you don't know how long you have them for either. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like, so, I mean, how are you finding it juggling landscape design and construction?
terribly. That's why I'm taking so long with the designs at the moment because I'm trying to get the actual construction done. And then I'm just because I'll do a lot of designs when I get home or get up in the morning, but I'll just been
Yeah.
absolutely cooked when I
Yeah.
get home.
I
Uh,
just feel like landscapers have such a tough job. I always like admire and respect what they do. And for us, when we are able to work with the crew that just we're on the same page with, it's so enjoyable. You just feel good about the whole thing. You just know that they can call you anytime, you can call them anytime with any question, and there's no problem. Like, you're able to resolve things quickly. You just get the best out of it, basically. So
yeah,
yeah, really
there's
respect.
certain companies and designers who are just made for each other and they work
Yeah.
and they're on the same page, like
Yeah.
STEM and Indigenous
Yes,
design.
yes.
Like,
Yeah.
they're right on the same page. So,
Yeah.
but then there's others who don't work at all together. So
Yes.
when you find a
Yeah.
good one, it's good to stick with them.
No, absolutely, absolutely. We sort of, a year or two ago, we really tried to make that effort to reach out to new landscapers because we really just want to have at least a handful of crews that we know sort of align with the way that we work. So I think that's what we were sort of trying to find is landscape construction teams and companies that, yeah, we felt really liked the style of gardens that we do and yeah that we just sort of were on the same page with because I just find that it's such a critical point because it's now the building stage and we want the design to come to life in the way that we've designed it and how we've imagined it really so
Who are a couple of the ones that you use?
we've used Normark and they've been really great. They've just been around for I don't know how long now, but they're just really good at execution. All the work they do is beautiful. We've had a few projects built by Green Exteriors who we've had such a great growing working relationship with. I think there's just a mutual respect for one another with how we work and there's no like ego and I think that's the thing when there's ego involved that's where you just know it's not going to work if they don't listen and they yeah I'm sure you've come across your fair share of working with designers as well that maybe you feel aren't getting the practical or functional side of things. So whereas, I think if we can, I always look to landscapers as someone who I can really learn from. So if they say, oh, this is not going to work, I'll just say, okay, what can we do? What do we need to do to make it work? And then I'll think about how we can resolve it on the aesthetics front. And they can just, tell me how they can build it so that it's to code or that it's safe or whatever it is. So I really love that. And I think that's just a good combination, I guess.
Yeah, it works both ways. Like they can learn off you as well about why, like, because some landscapers will change things saying, "Oh, we'll just do it this way because it's easier." But there's actually a reason and time and effort has gone into making it, designing it that exact way.
Yes.
So they can, yeah, if you communicate both ways, both of
Yeah.
you are going to learn.
No, absolutely. And I think that if you're both on that platform of wanting to learn from each other, I think you always just get the best result. And if everyone just wants the best outcome for the project and for the client, that's when it's like, yeah, you can work well together. And that's seriously a blessing. So when we do find someone like that, we just like, yeah, they'll definitely always be in the mix for our projects. So
Yeah. The bad thing is those type of people are awesome landscapers, so they're really busy. So
yeah,
it's hard to get them.
that's why we need at least five,
Yeah.
Joel.
So when you started out, how did you start getting work? Like where did it?
Well, funny enough, the very first project that we signed on was a referral from Tali from ABH. So it was one of his neighbors, and yeah, basically that it started from that point actually. I wasn't planning on taking too much work at the time because I was with Elliot, my newborn. So I, kind of wanted to enjoy motherhood as well without rushing into to business and work. So it was a good way to do a sort of soft start. So yeah,
And
that
then
was
was it just word of mouth from there?
yeah, it was from that, and I think the second one actually came through a friend of mine who I used to go to Burnley with. And yeah, I think from that point it was just word of mouth because the thing that sort of really took things off, I'd say, was when we started reaching out to architects. And I guess like for me, that was sort of the route I wanted to take because I really love, like we just love what architects can bring, love what they do, and the fact that they really do consider outdoor spaces more now as part of the building, the renovation, the house, like it's now an extension of the architecture. So they value gardens and landscapes just as much as we do. And so, in a way they kind of champion what we do. So we started reaching out to them really by just sending them some cards and images of the show gardens that we did at MIFGS. Yeah, so I think that was when it sort of really started to take off on that front. Yeah.
Yeah, and the people who are spending money and getting architects to design their house are going to be the same type of people you want to be working for.
Yeah, and that also understand the design process. I think that is key as well because we do get a lot of private clients who reach out directly to us, and very often and it's not like their fault at all. It's totally understandable, but we find they're not familiar with the processes and why things need to go through those stages in order to get this final outcome. It's not as it's not as easy as just going, oh yeah, can come over, have a look, tell me what we need to, plant, and that's it. It doesn't work that way. We like to sort of really take everything in to see how we can make this space feel like a transformation that works for how you like to live, how you like to use the spaces, what you want out of it. It's not as, so even like when we get, I guess, inquiries about just doing planting plans, like I think that's only really a small, like, I wouldn't say it's a small part of it. It's a part of it, but it's not the only part that we like to work on. I absolutely love plants, and I think that's where everything stems from for me is my love of plants and trees. So a lot of our gardens, as you know, would really have them as the star of the show, as you might say. But if we get inquiries like that, I just feel like, well, I don't know what the paving is, I don't like think that's a functional like path or whatever it may be. It doesn't work. Just don't like to do it half-heartedly, basically.
Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
same when we'll do a landscaping project and we'll do everything except and then well, it doesn't happen that often, but there's been times where like the designer or the clients want to do the plants at the end when we're finished.
Yeah.
And I hate that because that's
Like, oh, you could have told us sooner, then we would have made more considerations for,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's just the best part when the plants go in and the most enjoyable
Yeah.
and brings it all to life, adding all the color and
Yes, absolutely. So how long did you do landscape construction for before you like branched out into design?
well, I always did a little bits of design here and there, but like I was charging $770 or so, and you get what you pay for. So
Yeah.
they weren't that great uh, at the time. So yeah, I've been doing it. Like I've had the CAD program for since I started the business. So there was
Yeah.
just basic stuff at the start.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
actually probably I did them for free at the start. Actually, like when
Oh,
they someone would already signed up to us and they said we just want to draw it up, so I'd draw it up. It's
yeah. Yeah.
horrendous. It'd be funny to look back at some of them, but
Yeah. I know.
um, but yeah, probably the last. It's hard to say because I did the garden shows like 8 or 9 years ago, the
Oh,
boutique one. So
really? Oh,
yeah, it's just
yeah.
been gradually stepping up from there and then.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
really ramped up the last 3 years, I reckon.
Yeah. And do you sort of see yourself moving more into that direction and out of construction? Or do you sort of feel
That's
like because you've got construction as a background, it's actually good to have so that you know it gets built how you want it to be built?
but in a perfect world, I would do like get off completely, do designs, and have people doing construction as well.
Yeah.
But I've never been off the tools and had other people doing it. So you've got to have
Yeah.
the right people to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I can't do this forever,
Mm.
like the construction. So,
Yeah.
but I can do design forever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
eventually, that's where I'd like to get into. But
Yeah.
because I'm really like loving doing the design as well at the moment, like because
Yeah.
my plant knowledge is increasing the more I do, and
Yeah.
like I'll do a design and think, man, these plants are going to look awesome. I can't. Oh, I hope that gets built, and I want to see it.
Exactly. I know, and that's the other thing that's hard about this line of work, I guess, is how much patience you have to have.
Yeah.
Not only just in designing it, because sometimes a project that we start or get signed on probably, doesn't actually get completed for several months. Could be, 6
Or,
months, months,
or
12
years.
months. And then you wait years until before it gets built because it's either waiting for the house to get built or it's in planning and things like that. So it's such a long, drawn out process that people don't realize. Yeah.
Yeah.
But keeps you on your feet, I think.
Yeah, if you finish your design thinking, oh, this is going to look awesome in seven
Yeah.
years. I can't
Yeah,
wait to see it.
it's gonna look amazing. So I do find that actually by the time I get around to like the plants, so once the site's ready for plants, I always do another review of the list,
Yeah.
and more often than not, I'll always be tweaking that because
Yeah,
it's
that's a hard thing because I haven't got a landscape architect employed anymore, but when I had one, I told her to be looking at sort of plant lists to make sure what you're putting in is available.
yes,
But she's looking now, and then the job doesn't start for 9 months.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
plants aren't available anymore, the same
no,
ones. So
that's right.
it's hard to do that. So
I
yeah, you
know.
have to tweak them.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I do it just out of my own like inability to stick to it because I'm just like, hang on, maybe I think this combination will look better, so I'll just change it. I try not to, but yeah, right. Like it's obviously going to come down to availability as well. So we always do our best to try and propose plans that we know will be available around this time. But again, when it comes to this industry, it's like things get pushed out all the time. So
Yeah,
you can only just give them a look and feel, proposed plant list, but it's subject to availability of the time. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I love having when designers are on site for like when the plants are going in or when we're doing our own design because you tweak things anyway. Like
Yes.
on the plan, you think yeah, that looks great, but then when you put them in place, things are slightly bigger than what they actually were, or there's
Yeah.
just things that change, and you only change them like 5%, but it makes a massive difference.
Oh, absolutely. And this is why part of our services, we offer plant set out for the clients because that really is such a crucial part of delivering the design for the client. So we always try and procure the plants and set them out at the very least. There are some projects where, they're small enough and the landscape is happy for us to take on this scope of the works is we love to get our hands dirty and plant as well because even when we do that, we know how we treat plants. No offense. We're very, very careful with the plants. I don't know, I think just having that physical, I don't know, being in the space and then putting them out, I find that we need to be on site in order to achieve a better outcome because that's where my expertise comes in is my plant knowledge. It's a thing that I live and breathe basically. And so when we have a project where whether it's from the clients who that scope goes elsewhere, we always feel pretty deflated because we're like, but you're paying us for the design, but you're not going to get that design if you take that away from us. So yeah, it happens, unfortunately, but for the most part, we're slowly starting to get guest clients understanding the value of it and they fight for us to get it,
Yeah,
which is really nice that we
yeah,
don't have to be the one always fighting for it.
Yeah, there's a couple of jobs I've done where there was no design done because it
Yeah.
was just like really small and basic. So like we put on the soil for the garden beds, and then I just went to the nursery and picked out the plants.
Yeah.
And I found that like that looked awesome as well because I'm sort of picking the right textures and things that are looking good at the
Yes.
time. We
Yes.
work well together. So yeah, making
Absolutely.
things up on the spot is yeah
Yeah.
helps, and that's what I suppose creative people can do.
Yes, exactly. You could just sort of see it. You can sort of just visualize how they're going to work together. I think that's why, for me, I feel like really lucky to be able to work in this space because it just combines so much creative, I don't know, it really just allows me to work in a creative space. It's so layered. There's so much that goes into creating a beautiful landscape and garden that a lot of people probably don't see, and probably we don't charge enough for really for the time that we put in laboring and laboring and laboring ideas and when it comes to putting it all together in real life. So yeah, but I think the thing is that we just love what we do, so that helps.
Yeah, that could also be the reason you don't charge enough is because you love
Yeah.
what you do.
Well, hmm, I don't know. Lately, Joel, I've just been thinking we're probably, it would be nice to take on less projects for us and work on bigger projects in a sense of don't get me wrong, I really love like transforming small gardens and spaces because it's actually a lot more challenging than bigger spaces. It's more a sense of like thinking would be cool to create something in the public space where you can combine all of these elements that you do on the smaller scale for, private residents, but bring it to more people so that they can enjoy that too. I think that's sort of where I'd love to take the company. And so when I talk about wanting to take on less, it's more of taking on bigger projects that are more long-term based projects, So yeah, that was really cool because we went to the landscape conference. I don't know, did you go to that? Oh,
No.
you didn't. Okay. I was going to say sorry, I didn't see you. We went to that. So that was the first time I went to it, and I was walked away just so inspired. Just I never like I love to learn, but I went back to my Burnley nerd form, like just writing notes like crazy and just having the best time because I just looked to these people and thought, wow, they're doing something really cool with their time and they're bringing something really cool into the world. And it's not just for them, it's for the larger community. And I think that was really, really sort of, yeah, hit a spot for me, I guess. So yeah, hopefully in the future we'll probably try and lean into that space a bit more. I still love private residential, but that would be a really cool space to work in, I think.
Do you know how you'll sort of get those type of projects?
No, do you think you could
No
advise
idea. But
me?
if anyone's listening and has got one of them, send it through.
Yeah, please get in touch. Yeah, I just think I just think the experience that we had traveling in, places like France, just seeing the impact that it could have on your day-to-day life when you have a beautiful public space that you can access and enjoy. And it's like from all ages, So yeah, I think that it's a really wonderful thing that you could do.
Have you done any childcare centers or anything like that?
No, funnily enough, the childcare centre that our boy goes to, they opened a second centre, which is in dire need of a landscape design. And I think we put our hand up. I think Cam put our hand up for that. So we'll see how that goes. I do know that the same centre, Fran from PT Green had designed the one of the outdoor spaces for it, and it's just great. So yeah, doing something like that would be fantastic. But yeah, I'm sort of just thinking even bigger than that, Joel.
Yeah, yeah. But that's like a stepping stone.
Stepping stone, yeah.
Even I've done childcare centers.
Yeah, and how did you go with those? Did you like it?
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun because all the things you get to do in it's completely different to what you do in a
Oh,
residential.
that's so
Uh,
good. I
uh,
mean, do you find though that it was an easy process though to work with council or?
It wasn't council, it was more like all of the regulations that you gotta, because falls and all that stuff, and
Yes.
because everyone's got to be wrapped in cotton wool. Put a
Yeah.
rock in, you got to wrap it in bubble wrap.
Yeah. I know. Oh gosh. Whenever I see artificial turf,
Yeah.
school grounds, it just breaks my heart.
Well, don't look at the design I did.
Don't show me.
Because they can't use real grass because it's like it's on the south side and the kids just walk on it all the time when it gets wet and then
Yeah.
it comes back. So
Yeah.
because
Actually,
they jam, they've got their limits on how many kids they can have in a certain square meters, and
yeah,
they
right.
pack it so that it's exactly to the square meter. So like it's all just about the dollars.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm not looking forward to. So I'm kind of thinking, I don't even know. I don't even know. Like the whole bureaucratic side of things, I think the thing is the thing that probably stops me a little bit because it's really restrictive to how you can create something that is functional, that isn't like, like you say, having to wrap kids in cotton wool. It's like, no, let them fall. Like, it's okay. They'll be okay.
Yeah, it's better that they do.
Oh, I know exactly. But I know, actually, I came across, I don't wonder if this will work. Osbreed, they have a Zen grass that is heavily shade tolerant. You only need to mow it once a year.
But that's just zoysia, I think.
Yeah, but it's specifically bred so that it doesn't take that long to grow. I don't know. I haven't checked it out yet, but I just came across it. It's not the actual just straight zoysia. It's the Osprey
Yeah,
version.
they've got
Yeah.
their own weird numbers and names for them.
Yeah, yeah, all those codes.
Yeah. But the thing about them is if you only have to mow it once a year, that means it doesn't grow quick. So then if it's
That's
damaged, it's not going to repair itself quickly either.
yeah, it's true. It's true.
So yeah,
Point.
so I think they're um
Low
good for looking
traffic.
at. Yeah,
Yeah,
good for looking at,
yeah,
not for going on. But
yes. I know. It
um
is really tricky when it comes to lawn, but anyway,
yeah,
that's
I'm
another.
putting some Diamondia in a design at the moment, which I haven't used before.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it only grows really low and it's got nice little flowers sticking up from it, but
Oh, that's
it
cool.
good for traffic.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, I think it's Diamondia silver carpet.
All right, I'm
Can't
gonna
remember the actual species name.
grab it. Okay, I'll check
But
that
yeah,
out.
it's
I
got a
love everything
nice
fancy.
foliage. Like it's not just a pure green; it's got a bit of a silver tinge to it as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds really nice.
You mentioned Mifkas before, so what have you done there?
When have I been there? So when I was studying at Burnley, I think they picked two students to do an achievable garden. And so I did that in 2018 and it was a very perennial based garden with a little rustic swing on it. Yeah, it's very romantic idea. For a small space, I had a lot of fun doing it. It was really nice to see it come to life. And yeah, we had just really beautiful feedback from it as well. So it was really encouraging.
So that's what made you because I saw you there this year, and that's what's made you
Yes.
want to do a big one there.
Um, yeah, I'm still thinking about the big one.
From my understanding, you're thinking about it, and Cam's not.
Yeah, yes, that's right. I think I am sort of a bit, I'm not sure at the moment. I would love to. I just don't know whether I'll have the time to with two little ones. So that's the only thing is I just know how much goes into it. And even though when you're doing a big one, you've got a landscape crew who's building it for you, I think it still takes a lot of time. You got to treat it as another one of your projects essentially, and then take another 3 weeks off.
Yeah, it's almost more. There's more involved in it than a normal project.
Yeah, I mean, you did one not long ago, so you know the commitment it takes. But I do really appreciate what that platform can give young designers, up and coming designers, students, and even established designers. It's really just a space to put yourself out there in a way where you don't have a strict brief to work off. So you can do you in that space. I mean, I don't know whether the rules have changed with it, whether you have to do a certain theme or whatever it may be. But yeah, I do look at those platforms as a really important one for people to just be able to see what you can do, because we did get a few inquiries from that garden, and that was the garden that we were able to photograph and send on to architects who really responded to it. So we're really fortunate for that.
Yeah. Do architects do much in the public space as well? Because that's something else you could, like, if you sort of did a design a more sort of public space style garden, and
Yeah,
then yeah, that could be a way
that's
to go about
true.
it.
That's true. But then would it be too on the, too strategic? I don't know.
You'll be trying too hard, like we talked about at
Yeah,
the start.
and that's the thing. I feel like I think the way that I've always approached the garden, like the show gardens, because we've done two, and the second one was the year after, which was through NGIV, the Emergence Gardens, and I've always sort of approached the design as doing something that I would love. So I don't really go in with like an agenda of any sort. I couldn't do that. I don't do that now, and I just don't think I will do
Yeah.
that. But I do think that is something to think about.
Yeah, because that's also it's you also do it. You want to do that kind of work because you do love it, or no,
Yes, you're
that's not.
right. You're
It's
right.
not
And you
too
know,
far
I
out of
never
the.
thought about that. And I think that is definitely, you've definitely planted a seed there. I
Because
just got
that's
to
what.
try hard to not make it look too strategic.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah, yeah. Because that's what I love about doing my own. There is that I'm the client, so I get to do what
Yes.
I love. So
Yes.
that's why, yeah, I think they
Yeah.
look better than some of the other designs that I've done because it's just 100% my passion.
Exactly. And it's to your taste, it's just to how you want your garden to be. So, I mean, hopefully you brought some of that stuff back to your actual garden. So,
I certainly have in my
yeah,
front yard. There's a big tree, big olive tree there.
there you go. It's a win-win.
Yeah. Except it was it's not still on loan. It was paid for. That's the only
Oh,
only loss on that one.
oh dear. It's where the
Um,
sponsors need to come into play.
yeah, I don't think they'll sponsor you and then let you keep it though. That's the only thing.
I was lucky enough to actually keep the bench seat that I used in the Emergent Garden. I think because I painted it, so they couldn't resell it.
I should have painted the tree.
Just add a bit of crochet knit around the trunk and be like, it's mine, guys.
Actually, I got some concrete spheres from Anston and they let me keep them actually.
Oh,
So
great.
they
Oh,
were
that's so nice.
yeah, they were awesome with that.
Hmm.
I was going to ask what your sort of 5-year plan is, but you kind of been explaining it as you go anyway. So
Yeah,
um, yeah, that sort of makes sense. So last question for you is who do you think would be a good guest to have on the podcast?
a good guest. All right. I really love, I don't know if you follow them, Jackie and Maddie from Lady Smith Park Perennials. I hope I
No, I've heard of the business.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like going to meet them at the landscape conference, and they're just really beautiful humans, and they love perennials as much as I do, and they've created something really amazing where they are. I think they're really cool, so worth checking them out. I mean, I would love to see you chat to maybe Matt or Mike from Antique Perennials if you haven't already.
I've sent him a message, which
I
haven't heard
know
back
they're
from him.
super busy, but honestly, without them as one of the key perennial growers in Victoria, our gardens would not look as good as they do because they do all the hard work. I mean, I'm sure they get to have fun while traveling and sourcing, new species and things like that. But honestly, without them and all the other, growers that we do have, and we're lucky enough to have, like our gardens wouldn't look as good as they do, and we wouldn't have such variety. I think that's a thing I find is whenever I go to, a client's garden who has, it's basically just outdated, you often see the same species in them. So the variety, back then was is, barely anything to what we have now. So you had a lot of the same plants and trees being grown, and now we just have so much to choose from. And I just really appreciate love, and I love using their stock. And, I basically read their stock list like the Bible. I'm just sitting there, I'm studying it and just go, oh, I'd love to try that. So yeah, for me, it kind of keeps me on my toes and helps me creatively to see what plant combinations could work with new plants and introducing new plants to clients' gardens that they're not familiar with. I think that's kind of, an unspoken thing that we do is just not using the same plants all the time or trying not to at least. Yeah.
And you were the reason you came on the podcast is because you were recommended by Ashley James. So have you had any
Yes.
dealings with him or
Thanks.
just the Instagram?
Really just through Instagram. I think we just admire what each other like what each of, what we do. And yeah, just such a nice guy. It's kind of like how I guess I communicate with a lot of other gardeners and other designers is just coming from a place of simple admiration of, something they've created or something they've posted. And I just think, the community is such a big, I don't know, a big like I don't know what's the right word I'm trying to look for, but it sort of gives me energy to continue to do what I do is having that knowledge that there are other people just as passionate as you and nerding out on plants just like you who just want to make things beautiful who yeah just I think that's a big thing for me is we've been really lucky to have a few key people from the start and to, even till now, just connecting with like-minded people has been amazing.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot of people who
yeah,
say like
yeah.
running a business can be a lonely place, but things like the Instagram community help in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's another gardener, Anne Marie. I don't know if you follow her on
Yep.
Instagram.
Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful garden
no, I can't. I was thinking of
up
someone
in the
else.
Mornington area. And yeah, we connected with Tim Pilgrim through that. I mean, we basically loved the oak cottage gardens that he was sharing and loved the way that the light was hitting that photo and decided we would love to meet that photographer as well. It's like capturing how we'd love gardens to be captured in their natural light. And when we met, Martina Gemila, she's just amazing. So, we were lucky enough to sort of, I guess, find her through Tim Pilgrim. And, when I saw him at the Landscape Conference, I just, told him thanks.
Yeah, it's amazing what good photographers can do. Like I've seen photographs of gardens that I've seen, and I've said the photographer, it doesn't even look that good in person. But they make it look better than what it
Yeah,
actually
they
does.
can definitely make things look better. And just the way that they view the composition of what you've created and then yeah elevate it even more like just add another layer to it. You're just like every time we get our proofs back we're like, oh, how did she do this? Like amazing. So yeah, we're really really grateful and lucky to have that kind of community. It's just about right like finding your people as well in a sense. I can't say everyone is like that in the industry, but when you're lucky enough to meet people who are, on that similar page, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can't thank you enough for coming on. Absolutely love chatting with you. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks so much, Joel, for taking the time and for waiting. Really appreciate your patience.